Meta shuts down an 80,000 member ICE watch group after a Department of Justice nudge. Free speech principles meet selective enforcement. Then a headline grabbing UFO documentary, The Age of Disclosure, puts official testimony on, quote, non human craft in the mainstream. Next, PayPal's crypto partner accidentally creates $300 trillion in stable coins. What that glitch reveals about how fragile crypto really is. Fourth, New York City's mayoral debate turns into a three-way brawl, zingers, policy splits, and what it signals for November. And finally, why I'm marching at the No Kings protest tomorrow. Why mass, nonviolent people power is the last check on creeping authoritarianism. All that and more today.
Welcome to Filtered with TJ Walker.
Okay, and welcome. Thanks so much for joining me. It is Friday morning, October 17, 2025. Thanks so much for joining me. This is Filtered, the show where we look at the top stories of the day, business stories, technology stories, and culture stories, and then analyze them through the filter of communication and personal development skills, all with the goal of making you better, more successful in your professional life as well as personal life. Hey, do me a favor, a moment here. Our own research shows that the vast majority of people who listen to this show on a podcast don't subscribe and don't follow. You can really do us a favor, especially since we're only about 7 weeks old. If you could actually hit the subscribe button or the follow button, whether you are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or any of the other podcast apps out there. If you're on TikTok, please subscribe. YouTube, any other social media platform, please subscribe. Let's first check in on the vitals of the marketplace yesterday. S&P 500 closed at 6,629.07, down 0.63%. The NASDAQ Composite closed at 22,562.54. That's down 0.47%. Keep in mind, as we always do here at Filter, the long term. Over the last 25 years, the S&P 500 has gone up 7.4% per year. The NASDAQ 100 has gone up 9.73% per year. So please always keep in mind the long term. Okay, let's dive right into our top stories of the day. And this first one is a doozy. It involves Meta and what's going on there. Let me fill you in on the facts. Meta removes ICE watchdog page. According to the New York Times, Meta has removed a massive Facebook group called ICE Citing Chicagoland, a page with more than 80,000 members that help Chicago residents share real-time information on immigration and customs enforcement agents. Meta said the group violated its policies against coordinated harm, but the takedown came only after a request from the Department of Justice. Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed the group was doxing and targeting ICE agents. Here's the irony. The same political voices now cheering this deplatforming were furious when the Biden administration asked social media companies to curb anti-vaccine information, also on the grounds that it could lead to people dying. Back then it was censorship. Now it's law and order. Once again, it seems the principle isn't free speech, it's whose speech. Okay, what's the real message here? There are certain elements in our society who are all in favor of free speech if it means people spreading disinformation about vaccines that will kill millions of people. But all of a sudden, they're very much in favor of censorship if it hurts the feelings of certain ICE members and members of this administration. That is rank hypocrisy. Let's dive a little deeper into this issue. Now, I'm not in favor of anyone harming or causing physical violence against ICE officials, but that's not the purpose of this ICE sighting in Chicago. And they're trying to warn people so that they don't get roughed up. What we have seen from ICE so far is they have attacked law-abiding citizens. We've seen gas balls shot into the head of a minister on the street praying. And the fact that some citizen watchdogs want to alert people to create safety for Chicagoans. To spin that as they're promoting violence is an absolute absurdity. And it shows how those who were screaming and braying so loudly a few years ago, when, God forbid, Alex Jones is muzzled slightly with all of his nonsense harming people, now think it's perfectly fine to use the big hand of government telling media companies to silence dissenting voices. Folks, this is what Viktor Orban does. This is what Ferdinand Marcos did. This is what they do in Turkey, and this is certainly what Putin does on a daily basis, is you shut down dissent. Now, let's look at some facts here. The reason that certain vaccine deniers were deplatformed during COVID is it was a scientific estimation that their messages would result in people dying. Let's look at the facts. It's been estimated by a Lancet that since 1974, 154 million lives worldwide have been saved by vaccines and immunizations. According to the World Health Organization, 3.5 to 5 million deaths per year are prevented from immunizations. So when you have people purporting to present medical evidence saying, don't get vaccines, it'll harm you, they are, in fact, spreading death. They just are. Now, in the US, COVID vaccines prevented an estimated 3.2 million deaths and prevented 18.5 million hospitalizations. So the government, at least governments in the past, viewed it as their responsibility to protect human life, Americans' lives. And that's why they don't want spreading disinformation that will lead people to do things that end up killing themselves. This is exactly why it is illegal to scream fire in a crowded movie theater when there is no fire, because that speech leads to actions that could cause immediate death. If everyone is running and fleeing to get out of the theater all at once, inevitably or invariably or often, someone's trampled to death. And that's why that is an acceptable limitation to speech. And now we are seeing the federal government tell Meta, Facebook, hey, we don't want a website, we don't want a Facebook page that would criticize our use of military against American citizens and our quasi-military, our paramilitary attacking American citizens. We don't want you talking about that. So certainly, if there's anyone in that group advocating violence against a specific member of the government or ICE or anything else, fine, ban that one person. Remove their account. I'm all in favor of it. That would be fine. But to simply eliminate 80,000 people who want to speak their voice. Ida writes in, I want to talk about the hate tyranny in America protest. Yes, that is what we're going to talk about later today, Ida. I'm kidding. I'm paraphrasing Ida. Ida, if you want to stay with us, I'm happy to hear your opinions, but you're going to have to actually present some facts and arguments, not just spew nonsense. Let's look at some more facts here. The same people who cried big tech tyranny over vaccine posts are cheering that ICE is protected. Isn't that funny? Now, the group has 80,000 members. They've shared ICE agent photos and locations in Chicago. Not illegal. It's not illegal to do that. And for that, they are being silenced, absolutely silenced. It does make me wonder, are we going to see pressure from this administration to simply have a blackout of all news about tomorrow's No Kings demonstration? It's going to be hard to do that, considering those are actual nonviolent protests in thousands of communities around the country scheduled for tomorrow. There'll be more about that in our final segment today. But this is where it starts, folks. It's forcing suppression of media companies, and technology companies and media companies are the same thing today, even though they like to pretend they're not. And that is a big, big problem. Ida writes in that one political party hates America. Well, Ida, I am 100% agreement with you on that, or at least one party hates the fundamental principles America was founded on. And we're going to see those people in continuing debate in our culture because they happen to be running things right now. We've got lots more to come today. The next issue, completely non-political for the most part, about, believe it or not, UFOs. Some crazy new documentaries coming up on that. More in a moment after these commercial words.
Filtered is brought to you by the following. Want to advertise here? You better be legit. No crypto, no junk food, no supplements. Go to tjwalker.com/advertise. Want to become a better speaker, leader, or communicator? Start with the TJ Walker Success Library. It's 5 of my most practical books, covering everything from public speaking to media interviews and persuasive messaging, all for only $9.95. I've trained presidents and Fortune 500 CEOs, and now you can get the same wisdom in a fast, affordable format. Go to tjwalker.com/books and download your copies instantly.
Welcome back to Filter, the Age of Disclosure. A new documentary from Variety Headlines is lighting up conspiracy chats and mainstream news alike. It's called The Age of Disclosure, and it claims to expose an 80-year global cover-up of non-human life and secret government attempts to reverse engineer alien technology. Director Dan Ferris spent 3 years making the film in secrecy, interviewing 34 insiders from U.S. military and intelligence worlds. One of them, Jay Stratton, the former head of the Pentagon's UAP task force, says on camera, "I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings." Okay, the film hits theaters and Amazon Prime Video on November 21st. Here's the bigger point. People believe things like this because most of us don't actually understand the complex systems that already run our world, from artificial intelligence to cryptocurrency. When we can't see how something works, we fill in the blanks with faith, fear, or fantasy. And the confusion is the perfect breeding ground for misinformation and manipulation. Okay, what's the bottom line here? Here's yet another movie, another media property about this conspiracy to hide the fact that aliens have come to America because American officials don't want to scare the public. Newsflash, every single senator, president, cabinet member, member of the House would love to get attention from Americans by scaring them. That's why it's implausible to think there is a conspiracy. Let's dig a little deeper here. Now, please note, I've not seen the movie, and maybe it's really well documented. I am not so arrogant as to say I know with the fact that Earth is the only planet in the entire universe to have life or something close to what we think of as human life. I'm not saying that. I'm also not even saying that it's impossible for other life forms to have visited the United States and some other place on planet Earth. Here's what I am saying. The idea that there's been countless examples, as we've been told by these UFO conspiracy theorists, that there have been countless Martians and flying saucers and little green men and aliens and places out in Arizona and places like that, and that the military knows it, and that a lot of people, senators, presidents know it, but they don't want to tell Americans for fear of causing panic. That to me is the dumbest idea in the history of the world. If there's one thing we know about politicians. I'm speaking across the political spectrum here. I'm here as a sane, sensible centrist today. And it's just beyond debate that politicians crave attention. That's the currency in the modern era, especially by you know who in the White House. Anything they can do to get attention, they'll do. You're honestly telling me that all of a sudden the House votes to release the Epstein files and Trump, if he knew about little green men and Martians, wouldn't change the subject by saying, I have evidence today of being invaded by aliens from outer space? Yeah, that would change the attention. He would obviously do that. But I'm not, in this segment, I'm not picking on Trump. You're not telling me Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries wouldn't love to bask in the limelight of a press conference where every TV camera in the world is pointing at them, where they're showing evidence of little green men and out of space, other world aliens. They would love that. So in order to believe this conspiracy theory that the government is hiding the fact that there are all sorts of aliens who've come to not just Earth, but the United States, you have to believe two things that are fundamentally contradictory. One, you have to believe three things, actually. One, you have to believe that all these government officials and military officials who have seen these aliens and evidence were supposed to reveal it to the public and didn't. So they essentially violated their oath of office. Two, you're assuming human beings can keep a secret. All evidence says they really can't. You really think Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky wouldn't have liked to keep a secret if secrets were possible to be kept? People can't keep secrets. Number three, the very same people you're assuming are so evil that they would keep all this hidden, you're now saying they're so noble that they're giving up all the attention they could have gotten. Think of how much money you could make if you were a former Air Force general or a former cabinet official, and you could write a book with pictures giving demonstrable proof of life from other planets. You'd get a $10 million book contract. So on the one hand, you're saying these people are so awful, conniving, not fulfilling their duties to America. On the other hand, you're saying they're so selfless, they're giving up $10 million book contracts. To me, that just does not add up. It's not credible. And let's also be clear about some terms. Unidentified flying objects means you can't identify it. If I throw a rock in your backyard and you don't know it's a rock, maybe you think it's a baseball, maybe you think it's a piece of coal, well, then by definition, that's an unidentified flying object. Have people seen unidentified flying object? Sure. Have weather balloons looked weird in certain lighting? Yes. Do various military planes from various governments sometimes take new shapes? Yes. Do human beings hallucinate and do drugs sometimes and imagine they've seen things? Yes, yes, yes. But none of that, I believe, would lead a rational human being to conclude, yes, there are little green people, and yes, there are foreigners who've come from other planets, and their government is hiding evidence of that because they don't want to scare us. That to me is completely non-credible. But the movie's coming out. I haven't seen it. I will remain open-minded. If I see enough news reports or enough of you tell me, TJ, you got to see this, it's really credible, I will take a look at it. But I want to see someone who's fact-checked. I want to see serious reviews before I waste my time on it. So we'll take a look. Again, personally possible that we are visited from another planet at some point, not ruling it out, but that does not in any way mean it's happened and it's being covered up. Okay, we're going to talk about some crazy crypto stories in just a moment. Stay tuned after this brief commercial word.
We'll be right back after this break. Want more? Grab my 5-book success library for $9.95 at tjwalker.com/books. It's the fastest way to level up your communication. Imagine being the most confident person in the room, whether you're on Zoom or on stage. That's what thousands of professionals are learning to do right now through my online communication courses. At Media Training Worldwide, you can access my complete training library on demand, affordable, and actually effective. Whether you're preparing for media interviews, client presentations, or TED-style talks, I've got you covered. Check it out, MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. You'll never wing it again.
Welcome back to Filtered Issue 3. PayPal's crypto partner creates $300 trillion? According to CNBC, this actually happened. Paxos, the crypto company behind PayPal's digital currency, accidentally created $300 trillion worth of PayPal's stablecoin, PYUSD. That's not a typo. For about 20 minutes, computer records show the equivalent of twice the total value of the entire global economy suddenly blinking into existence. Paxos called it a technical error during an internal transfer, then deleted the extra coins and insisted no customer funds were affected. Well, okay, let's hope not. But here's the scary part. Crypto was designed to run without human control. It's supposed to be trustless. Yet one line of bad code or a simple input mistake can instantly create or destroy unimaginable amounts of digital money. If something like this weren't caught immediately, it could trigger fake trades, tank markets, or convince investors the system was collapsing. And because crypto prices move by algorithm, not regulation, those ripples could quickly jump into the real economy, hitting banks, retirement accounts, and payment systems. What happened with Paxos wasn't a crime. It was a glimpse of how fragile the world really is. A global financial network that can mint $300 trillion by accident isn't a revolution in finance. It's a warning that we built an entire parallel economy on unstable math and misplaced faith. Okay, so what's the real message here? What are we to make of the fact that Paxos accidentally created $300 trillion like that and then, oops, took it away? It's yet another sign that nobody really knows what's going on with crypto. Even people who hype it every day and make tens of millions of dollars don't really know how it works. That's the dirty little secret about everything related to crypto. Let's dig a little deeper here. Again, this was a glitch, they claim. It was caught, deleted within 20 minutes, but what if it had taken 20 hours? What if the person catching it was on vacation? Again, a bad line of code could spark fake liquidity and wild price swings across crypto markets. So much of this is automated. You know, where do you go if all of a sudden Bank of America or Chase is a bank I use, if all of a sudden you look at your bank balance and it's $10,000 less than what you knew you had in there this morning, you can actually call someone, and it may take a while, but you'll actually talk to a human being. They will retrace it, and if a mistake has happened, they will correct it. Maybe even say, "Sorry, sir, madam," because anything humans ever touch has mistakes in it. And Bitcoin, all of these things were created by humans. So it's inconceivable to me that there aren't embedded errors somewhere. With a bank, as much as everyone loves to mock and ridicule about how awful fiat currency is, oh my gosh, you're so lame, TJ, you use Chase Bank. As much as everyone loves to mock that, There are real people working there. Yes, they make mistakes from time to time. Yes, they do bad things from time. Yes, they commit fraud sometimes. But there are real human beings who are accountable occasionally, maybe not in the Great Recession, but yeah, they are occasionally accountable. They are regulated. And that's the real problem. This, with everything crypto, is it is so wildly unregulated. The swings are so dramatic. Now, we've never had a swing from here's an extra $300 trillion to oops, gone. We've never had a swing that big. Unfortunately, it was so quick that it doesn't seem to have really done much damage. But it's perhaps only a matter of time. Now, I've gotten a lot of flack from friends, others, many of you who talk about what a Luddite I am. I still maintain all crypto is essentially a con operation. It's essentially a Ponzi scheme. It's people gambling, saying there's going to be another sucker coming along who's going to pay more for this worthless thing than I did. And I can sell it to them and I can make more money. And that's great as long as it lasts, as long as you get out in time. But if you go back more than 15 years to the creation, the initial vision of Bitcoin and all this crypto stuff, it was going to become a currency people use. Nobody actually uses it other than drug dealers for the most part. It's used as an investment, and as a speculative investment. That's all it's used for the most part, all with the hope of a bigger sucker comes along. That's also used for con operations and fraud. Witness all of the various coins and anything anything related to cryptocurrency and this current administration. It's basically a way for foreign governments and individuals to bribe the great orange one, and it's all unaccountable. I'm TJ Walker. This is Filtered. This is the show where we look at the top stories of the day, top technology stories like this, business stories, economic stories, and culture stories, and analyze it through the lens of communication and personal development skills. We're going to take a look at New York City's mayoral debate in just a moment. Back in a moment. Hey, if you're enjoying this kind of take and want to hear more stories filtered through the lens of communication, make sure you're following the show, whether you're watching or listening. New episodes drop every single day. And if there's a little notification option where you are now, go ahead and turn it on. It helps you stay in the loop. Welcome back. The New York City mayoral debate brawl. According to the Times, the first general election debate for New York City mayor was a 2-hour slugfest featuring Democrat Zoran Mandami, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, and the Republican Curtis Sliwa. The exchanges were sharp and personal. Cuomo hammered Mandami's experience, saying he literally has never had a job. He interned for his mother. Well, it is true he interned for his mother, but Cuomo interned for his father. Mandami fired back on character. Why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes? When I don't have an experience, I make up for in integrity. Ooh, that was a strong one. Sliwa played traffic cop and provocateur. There's high levels of testosterone in this room. And to Cuomo, he said, you're no Mario Cuomo. I knew Mario Cuomo. You, sir, are no Mario Cuomo. Now, any of you who are fans of debates know that that's an homage to a very famous moment way back in 1988 when Lloyd Bentsen was the vice presidential nominee, and he was running the Democratic nominee, and he was running against Dan Quayle. And he famously said, Senator Quayle, I knew Jack Kennedy. I like Jack Kennedy. You're no Jack Kennedy. And that was the soundbite of the entire debate. So Curtis Sliwa, a very savvy media guy, obviously knows his history of debates. And interesting, I didn't see anyone even commenting on that homage in the coverage. Policy lines surfaced between zingers. Mamdani pushed affordability, universal childcare, and fixing 311, saying you can track your Uber Eats block by block, but not your city services. Cuomo leaned on managerial chops and public safety branding. Mamdani, Bill de Blasio light. That was the former mayor. Cuomo didn't like him. Sliwa mocked progressive plans as fantasy and even knocked extending the Q train. The trio meet again October 22nd, ahead of the November 4th election. Let's take a look right now and analyze some of the footage together. Let's take a look from this debate. I'm going to show you, this is courtesy of WABC. And we will take a look at this right now, pulling up the footage. Here we are.
You're not a Democrat. You're a Democratic socialist.
We have
you didn't vote for Kamala Harris, right?
We have other ground to cover. We have other ground.
Said leave it blank in the presidential primary because primaries are a place to air dissent. And like many Americans, I was horrified.
So many people around the country and around the world have not really seen Mamdani. They've heard about him. But for a lot of people, this is the first time to really look at him, although he did interviews on Fox News Channel earlier this week, and he does a lot of interviews, and he's active in social media. He has been praised for his media savvy. And you can see right here, he's clearly a young person. He's only in his early 30s, but he does come across as quite poised. And he always dresses conservatively, which if you know anything about the history of radicals, that's what they recommend. In order to do radical things, you should dress conservatively so as to not scare people. And I say radical. He calls himself a democratic socialist, but he also says he's a Democrat and has won the Democratic nomination and is accepting the nomination from the Democratic Party. He's also accepting endorsements from Democrats. Let's take a listen a little more.
By the Israeli genocide of Palestinians. And if you want to look for me on the ballot, you'll find me as the Democrat.
Mr. Mamdani.
So one thing you can see right off the bat with him, he looks very poised. He looks comfortable and confident. And his experience level is very different from Cuomo. Cuomo was elected 3 terms as governor, grew up in his entire life in the spotlight, and has tremendous experience debating. He's been in countless debates. Curtis Sliwa has been in front of the cameras since the 1980s as a guardian angel. He's been around forever and ever. He's done thousands of debates. He debates every day on his radio talk show, TV talk shows. So both of these men, former Governor Cuomo and the Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa, they couldn't be more relaxed in a studio if they were in their pajamas drinking hot cocoa and watching their favorite TV show. I mean, they've spent thousands and thousands of hours in front of TV cameras and microphones debating. Mamdani does not have that level of experience. And by that standard, he came across really well. I mean, he always has a little bit of a smile on his face. He looks pleasant, relaxed. Let's look smart. And I should give full disclosure. I did not watch the whole debate. But I can tell you that I have prepped numerous candidates for debates at every level of politics in numerous countries. And debates are a great way of sometimes altering campaigns with a big moment, especially if you attack a front runner and it gets people to look at that person in a new light. By that standard, this debate does not appear to have done that. All the candidates got some zingers in. Nobody delivered a knockout punch. Mamdani, for those of you following New York City politics, is the clear-cut front runner. He came from nowhere, beat everyone in the Democratic primary, even though Andrew Cuomo was the heavy favorite and had so much more money than anyone else. He basically humiliated Cuomo in the Democratic primary. Now Cuomo's running on another ticket, which he's allowed to do. So the real issue is, did anything happen in this debate to slow down the momentum of the clear-cut frontrunner, Mamdani? Again, all 3 names will be on the ballot. The incumbent Democrat mayor, Eric Adams, quit. He's like, I give up. My campaign's going nowhere. I can't even raise any money. So he quit. Conventional wisdom is that benefited Andrew Cuomo because centrist voters who would have voted for Eric Adams will now go to Cuomo, but the polls are just not showing much improvement as far as being able to beat Mamdani. Let's look a little more at these debate performances.
All right, thank you.
The assemblyman will not denounce Hamas. The assemblyman will not denounce Hassan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11.
The occupation is a reference to international law and the violation of it, which Mr. Cuomo has no regard for since he signed up to be Benjamin Netanyahu's legal defense team during the course.
So some of you may be thinking, okay, these guys are running for the mayor of an American city, New York City. Why are they spending so much time talking about Israel and Gaza? Well, New York City is home to more Jewish people and people of Jewish descent and cultural heritage than any other city in the world outside of Israel. So it is an important issue. And Cuomo and Sliwa were trying to make a lot of hay out of that. I don't know that they really caused any damage to Mamdani because he frankly has gotten a lot of support from young people who are outraged at what has happened in Gaza and are very skeptical of old line leaders of both parties who just reflexively endorse anything Israel wants to do. So I don't think this caused any damage for Mamdani.
Of this genocide. You know, it took Andrew Cuomo being beaten by a Muslim candidate in the Democratic primary for him to set foot in a mosque. He had more.
Okay, so this is a nice forceful attack. Again, for someone so young, for so little experience, Mamdani clearly seems as comfortable and as confident and as relaxed as the other two candidates. And he does seem obviously younger. He is much, much younger. Both of the other men are in their late 60s. So he's coming across quite well, and he's not coming across as scary. In America, at least, if you say someone is a socialist, what you typically, many people think of is the guy at the drum circle who's kind of dirty, a white, gray-haired guy with horrible dreadlocks, maybe balding with a ponytail, a tie-dye shirt, and flip-flops or sandal. That is the popular perception many people have of a socialist in America. So here you see a young man, neatly groomed. Yes, he does have a beard. I guess Pete Hegseth would say he's a beardo, but J.D. Vance does as well. Neatly coiffed, the most conservative shirt you could possibly wear, a white business shirt, a dark conventional business suit, and a tie that doesn't call attention. So he does not look in any way radical. Let's watch more.
Than 10 years, and he couldn't name a single mosque at the last debate we had that he visited.
Zoran Mamdani, the president has already said it's going to take $7 billion.
So this is Curtis Sliwa, who is a skilled communicator. He's been on every talk show in the world, believe me. I've been on the circuit with him before, and he is relentless at getting media attention and being a talk show host, a talk show guest. But he has all his own credibility issues of various lies told in the past just to get attention and publicity. And no one really takes Curtis Sliwa seriously as a mayoral candidate.
Dollars out of the budget right from the start if you're elected mayor. People are going to suffer in this city. People who need those federal funds. What I would do is sit and negotiate.
But he sounds like a real New Yorker. That's a typical type of street guy, tough guy, I'm on the streets guy kind of accent that does make him popular with a lot of New Yorkers, but many people like him as a messenger, but not as someone they see as really fit to be a leader.
Negotiate.
You know, Mr. Trump is already suspending infrastructure grants to this city, and he's doing it in a blatant act of political retribution.
I went through.
Okay, so again, Mamdani is coming across forceful. He's not rushed. He doesn't seem nervous. A lot of times I've worked with candidates and seen candidates, if they are young and not particularly experienced, what happens in a debate when it's now not just one reporter talking to them. There's a room, there are a lot of people quite often, other people around, it's a scarier, more nerve-wracking thing. What happens in those situations quite often is they start speaking faster, a little rushed. That flattens their voice out, removes natural speech cadence, and makes them sound nervous, scared, timid, uncomfortable. Mamdani is coming across like a real pro. He's not rushing. He's pausing. His body moves. His hand gestures are there. His head is moving. He's coming across certainly like someone who's seasoned, mature, and capable of speaking on behalf of the whole city. So that's the subtext of many debates is, as a voter, do you ask yourself, do I see this person representing my town or my city or my state in a time of crisis? And whether you like Mamdani's policies or the label he uses, he didn't do anything to scare people.
This with him. He sent the National Guard to 20 cities when I was governor. You know what city he didn't send them to? New York. Why? Because I said to him, don't you dare, we don't need it, and he backed down.
So Cuomo, let me be fair here. Cuomo is a skilled communicator. During the pandemic, he gave daily briefings, and you know, you had people like Chelsea Handler saying, I'm in love with this man. People loved him. But when you speak, people are judging you at several levels. There's what you say, there's how you say it, and there's who you are. This goes back to Aristotle's analysis of how speakers are judged. And the problem Cuomo has is, even if people think he's a good speaker, and fair-minded people do think he's a good speaker and a good communicator, the problem is his track record. He had not one, not two, not five, but 13 women say he sexually harassed them, and that drove him from office. And you had a lot come out about what he actually did during COVID with old folks' homes that increased the rate of death and problems. So a lot of people are saying, we've tried this guy before, and we don't really like who he is. So that's the problem with just showing up and doing a good debate, is people need to, they're looking at you within context. Mamdani is a little bit different because he doesn't have the negatives from a long track record because he hasn't really done anything other than serve in the state legislature briefly. So how would this political debate really shape things for the entire election? I think it's going to have no impact. Now, you never know completely. Sometimes something happens in a debate and people don't even notice it for a day or two, and then it captures fire in social media and it does move some polls. But as of right now, I think none of the men made any horrible mistakes in this debate. They all looked composed. They all delivered zingers. They all delivered sound bites. No one seemed flustered. No one fell apart. There was no moment like Rick Perry when he was running for president one time, and he said, I'm going to cut these 4 cabinet offices and a Department of Education. And then he's just like, oops, I forgot. He couldn't name the last one. It became the most memorable moment. His campaign was over. Nobody ended their campaign from this debate, and nobody really helped themselves that much either as far as changing polling data. Let's take a look at comments. Luke stops in, says, hi. Luke says he's calm, confident, and relaxed. And I don't know who you're talking about, Luke, because I would argue all 3 of the men looked calm, confident, and relaxed. But Mamdani kind of had the most to prove because people were so unfamiliar with him, and expectations for a kid, really, early 30s, to look calm, confident, and relaxed among 2 serious communication pros like Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa, I think is a net plus for Mamdani. Okay, coming up, I'm going to be talking about No King's Day. This gets personal, folks. So, and SS says hello, Mary says hello. Thank you very much for stopping by today. This gets personal. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this commercial word.
Want a shortcut to powerful communication skills? Download the TJ Walker Success Library, 5 of my best-selling books for only $9.95. Go to tjwalker.com/books. Instant access, big impact. I've had entire YouTube channels wiped out overnight, so if you enjoy this show, don't lose track of me. The safest way is my newsletter, substack.com/@TJ TJ Walker Success. Sign up for free and you'll get exclusive commentary, live session alerts, and first access to new tools. Again, that's substack.com. Just search for TJ Walker or go to substack.com/@TJ Walker Success. Your direct line to everything I do.
Welcome back to Filtered. Okay. Why I'm attending the No Kings protest tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'll stand shoulder to shoulder with millions of Americans in streets and city squares across this country. Not because I enjoy protest, but because I believe we have no other choice left. I'd rather do anything else than this. It's not my idea of fun. I'd much rather spend my Saturday morning playing pickleball. I'm a sane, sensible centrist. I don't want to be going to protest. I feel like I have no choice. The No Kings rallies aren't just about one man or one administration. They're about whether the United States remains a democracy or slips fully into authoritarian rule. For years, many of us told ourselves that our institutions would hold, that the courts, the press, and Congress would act as guardrails against tyranny. But that faith has been shattered. Donald Trump now controls the White House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and most of the lower courts. A majority of major media outlets either serve his propaganda or fear his retaliation. The system of checks and balances is gone. The only power left, the only remaining counterweight to authoritarian rule is us, the people. This is why I will march, not out of despair, but out of duty. The No Kings movement is built on a simple moral truth. No one in democracy is above the law. Trump's second term has systematically dismantled that idea. His administration has ignored court rulings, weaponized federal agencies against critics, and filled the streets of American cities with militarized agents meant to intimidate dissenters. We've seen this movie before, just not here. This is how autocracy takes root. Slowly, then suddenly. We are watching it unfold in real time. I've studied the history of how people fought back against dictatorships in other nations. The lesson is clear. Nonviolent mass protest works. In the Philippines, millions of citizens toppled Ferdinand Marcos through peaceful uprisings after years and years of corruption and repression, plus all the shoes. In Poland, workers and intellectuals united in the solidarity movement to bring down communist rule. In South Africa, persistent civil resistance ended apartheid. In each case, authoritarian leaders controlled the courts, the media, the military, every lever of institutional power, but they couldn't control people power. That's what tomorrow represents, people power. The protest has been deliberately planned as non-violent. Let me say that again. The protest has been deliberately planned as non-violent. Organizers have trained volunteers in de-escalation and community care. The ACLU and other civil liberty groups have offered Know Your Rights workshops. We're not coming to fight with federal agents. We are coming to show that no army, no propaganda machine, and no president can command the conscience of free citizens. Yes, I know the risks. Trump's Justice Department has already labeled progressive groups as domestic terrorists. Federal agents have been deployed to cities like Portland and Memphis, not to protect citizens, but to provoke them, to create images of chaos that justify repression. But the truth is, if we stay home, the repression will only deepen. Authoritarian regimes don't stop because people behave. They stop because people refuse to obey. Tomorrow's march is an act of moral defiance and civic hope. It is a public reminder that democracy isn't a building, a court, or a constitution. It's a behavior. It's something we do together or we lose it. I'm not naive enough to believe that one protest will topple a dictatorship, but I know that silence never has. In every nation that has overcome tyranny, resistance began with individuals deciding that enough was enough. From Manila to Kiev, from Johannesburg to Seoul, ordinary people reclaimed their countries not by violence, but by presence, by showing up in such numbers that power could no longer pretend to speak for the people. That's what I'll do tomorrow. I'll bring my voice, my body, my conviction. I'll walk beside strangers who believe in freedom, dignity, and truth. I'll walk because I want my daughter and her generation to inherit a country where leaders serve laws, not themselves. Trump wants a nation of spectators. The No Kings movement is a nation of participants. And if enough of us show up peacefully, firmly, and relentlessly, we can remind even the most arrogant tyrant of all, the people still rule. I want to thank you for spending time with me today. If you got any value out of this, well, for one, I hope to see you tomorrow at the No Kings rally, if you're seeing this before it's happened. And remember, stay peaceful, even if others try to antagonize you. Don't take the bait. Debate would be good if we had it. Unfortunately, right now, we're not getting real debate. You can state your case in court, win, and it is just ignored. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. I will see you tomorrow. We will try to get the tomorrow show done before I head off to the No Kings rally. And then all goes well, I will be back here Sunday if I haven't been silenced. See you tomorrow.